Okay, here we are ready for another deep dive. We've got a really interesting piece from the Khmer Times today. It's all about a major international agreement Cambodia's just signed.
That's right. And our job really is to unpack this. What is this agreement? Why now for Cambodia? And, what are the ripple effects? For Cambodia, sure, but also for, well, ocean protection globally.
Yeah, the focus is Cambodia signing the BBNJ agreement. And what really jumped out from the source, for me anyway, was this dual angle. It's not just conservation. There seems to be a clear eye on future economic opportunities linked to the sea.
Absolutely. It's that blend, isn't it?
Yeah.
Conservation and this idea of sustainable use.
So let's start with the core event, the news itself. The Royal Government of Cambodia, RGC, officially signed the BBNJ agreement. The Khmer Times article pins this down to France, specifically Monday, June 13th, 2025. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's the date mentioned. And the signing itself, it wasn't just, random. It happened during a special treaty event. The article connects it directly to the third UN Ocean Conference, UNOC3, held in Nice.
Okay, so a big international stage. And the confirmation comes from Cambodia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the MFAIC, through a UN department press release.
That's what the source indicates, yeah. A UN Department of MFAIC press release. So definitely an official high-level action.
Right. So BBNJ, to really get why this signing is a big deal, we probably need to understand what it actually is.
Definitely. It's quite a name.
Give us the breakdown. What's the full title? And maybe more importantly, what does it aim to do?
Okay, brace yourself. It's the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, on the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction. The key phrase there, the really important part, is areas beyond national jurisdiction.
ABNJ. Right. What does that mean in simple terms?
Think high seas. Basically, all the ocean waters that are outside any single country's control, their exclusive economic zone, territorial waters, all that. It's massive. It covers something like 2/3 of the world oceans. It's like a shared global marine space.
Wow, 2/3. So this treaty is trying to manage and protect life in those huge shared areas.
That's the core idea. The MFAIC statement, which the article cites, lays out the goals clearly. Protect marine biodiversity and make sure the use of marine genetic resources in these areas is fair and sustainable.
Marine genetic resources. Okay, that phrase pops up again and again in the article, tied to the economic angle. What are we talking about here? What makes them valuable?
Good question. It's central to the why. Essentially, marine genetic resources refer to the genetic material, DNA, RNA, found in marine organisms way out there in the high seas. These organisms, often living in really extreme places like deep-sea vents, can have unique biological traits. Very novel stuff.
Okay, and the value comes from?
Potential applications. Think marine biotechnology, pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Imagine discovering enzymes that function under immense pressure or finding compounds with new medicinal uses. Researchers, companies, they're exploring these for new drugs, industrial chemicals, even cosmetics.
So it's like exploring a deep-sea library for potentially breakthrough biological codes.
That's a good way to put it, a biological treasure trove, potentially. And that brings us back to Cambodia's strategy. The article really emphasizes that signing BBNJ puts Cambodia in a position to, well, potentially gain economically from the sustainable use of these resources, specifically those found beyond national jurisdiction.
And the source gets specific: marine, biotech, pharma, other ocean-based innovations.
Exactly. These are key sectors in the whole blue economy discussion. The article suggests this move helps Cambodia engage more deeply in global marine governance. Why? Because being part of that system, being at the table, is seen as the way to diversify the economy through what the source calls responsible participation in research and sharing resources from the high seas.
Responsible participation. We should probably circle back to that. But first, the article mentioned another environmental commitment alongside BBNJ.
It did, yeah. Cambodia also endorsed something called a nice wake-up call.
Sounds dramatic. What is it?
It's basically a declaration, backed by most members of the group negotiating a global plastics treaty, the INC. The goal is pretty clear. Finalize a strong, universal, legally binding treaty to deal with plastic pollution.
Ah, so tackling plastics, too. It shows a broader environmental picture than just the high seas agreement.
I think that's the implication, yes. The article frames it as showing Cambodia's collective resolve on pollution for, future generations and the planet. It sits alongside the BBNJ signing.
Now, the Khmer Times piece also included some analysis from Son Sam, a policy analyst at the Royal Academy of Cambodia.
Yes, they spoke to him, and he was positive about Cambodia joining this global ocean framework. He also offered some historical context, which I thought was interesting. He pointed out Cambodia's been involved in these kind of international talks for a long time, apparently going back to 1983.
Wow, that far back. He mentioned the king's involvement too, didn't he? King Norodom Sihamoni at COP21 in Paris.
He did. In 2015, just establishing that thread of engagement over time on global environmental matters. Sam also made a point about Cambodia's geography. Sometimes people might think of it as landlocked, but it's not really. It has a significant coastline. And he used that to argue why marine conservation and those economic opportunities for marine genetics are genuinely relevant for the country.
Makes sense. And the Prime Minister, Hun Manet, was also mentioned in relation to this.
Right. He was actually at the UNOC3 event in Nice. The source says he met with French President Macron there. And apparently he reaffirmed Cambodia's environmental commitments, using the BBNJ signing as a key example. The analyst, Sam, also noted this was the PM's second visit to France. He touched on the long history between the two countries, the ups and downs over centuries, French support at times. Adds a bit of diplomatic background.
Okay, so let's try and pull these threads together. We have the signing itself, the details of what BBNJ covers, the focus on marine genetic resources and economic potential, the plastic treaty endorsement, the historical context. What's the main message coming through from the source about this whole move by Cambodia?
Well, the overarching takeaway seems to be that it's a very deliberate, strategic decision. It ticks the box for global environmental responsibility conserving high seas biodiversity. And it clearly positions Cambodia to pursue economic benefits from those same areas, especially through these marine genetic resources. It's playing both sides in a sustainable way, hopefully.
So participation in global governance is seen as the key to unlocking those future blue economy benefits.
That seems to be the calculation, yes. The source definitely frames it as getting a seat at the table for whatever comes next in marine biotech, pharma, derived from the high seas.
So wrapping up the core of it, Cambodia signing BBNJ isn't just symbolic environmentalism. It's a clear signal about wanting a role in the future blue economy and how the high seas are managed.
That's a fair summary, I think. It's about future participation. And, thinking about that future, the source mentions diversifying the economy through responsible participation in high seas research and resource sharing.
That phrase again, responsible participation, it really does stand out, especially when you're talking about shared global resources and potential profits alongside conservation.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And maybe that's the final thought for you, the listener, to mull over. When nations aim to balance economic gain with environmental protection, these vast areas beyond anyone's borders, these global commons, what does responsible participation actually mean on the water? How do you ensure fairness, sustainability, and genuine conservation when exploring and potentially exploiting these shared marine resources? It's a huge question for the future.